Hello, welcome to video number 4 in the beginner series where we will go over creating a player character and game settings. So let's create a new folder, right click, new folder, and we're going to call this game settings. In here we want to create some new blueprints. The first one will be blueprint class, game mode base. Now the game mode, as it says here, defines the game that is being played, its rules, scoring and other facets of the game type. So as we don't have a template that we've used, we're going to need a game mode, and we're going to call this my game mode. Now if you double click on this, you can see over here these are the options of a game mode. So the game session class, game state, player controller, player state, HUD class, and default pawn is what we want to change. So we're going to click on this and choose my player character. A lot of these, so server stats replicator class, the replay spectator player controller, spectator class, things like that will all do with multiplayer games, so we don't need to worry about those. Once you make changes to a blueprint, you need to hit this button, compile. As it says there, it's dirty and needs to be recompiled. Now we have a tick, the engine's happy that this file works, and now we're going to save that. And I should have told you in the last video about saving. See, our player character has the star icon. That is because that is an unsaved blueprint. If you hit save all here, you can see there, because I hit the build button, I have build data to save and a player character. Hit save. Now it'll want me to save my map, so we need to right click, new folder, and we need a maps folder. It's important to make sure everything has its own place, so let's just call this PH. Right now this is just a placeholder map, so that is what it's going to be called. So in game settings, my game mode, right click, and we'll make another blueprint of a player controller. Now a player controller is an actor responsible for controlling a pawn used by the player, so we're going to need one of those. By default the game does have one, but you don't have access to it, so if you make your own, you can use it to add settings to the controller and so on and so forth. So my player controller, and if we right click, blueprint class, and here we see all classes. Click on this drop down and type in instance. Now we need to find a game instance. Highlight that, hit select. I'm going to call this my game instance. So the player controller is what controls the player, the game mode sets the rules of the game, and the game instance is persistent while you play the game. The game mode can be changed and is unloaded and loaded on levels, and the game instance is a consistent, persistent blueprint. So you have anything that you need to access between all of your levels, you do it in the instance. Anything that you want to do level based, you do in the game mode, and anything you want to do with the player, you could do in the player controller. So let's hit save all so we don't lose those. Now if we hit play, you will see that we are still the camera. Why is that? Because we haven't set this game mode to be our base. So if we head up to edit and project settings, now there's a lot of settings in here, you don't need to worry about that at the moment. So project settings, for the project, you'll see maps and modes, and it says there default maps, game modes and other map related settings. So the default game mode is just the game mode base, and we've made a child of that and called that my game mode. And if we hit the selected game mode drop down, you can see here now our default pawn is my player character. The player controller class is player controller. so let's change that to my player controller. And at the bottom here we see GameInstance. Let's change that to my GameInstance. So now we have complete control over the game. And the default maps here, let's make it our placeholder map, and the game default will make it our placeholder map as well. And as you go here, we have transition maps like in the likes of Fortnite, where you can have a level to transition between two levels, but we'll go over that and we'll create something along those lines. But just be aware that that setting is there. While we're in here, we are going to create an input for our character. Action mappings is when we want a character to do an action, and an axis mapping is when we want our character to use axes, and that is what we need. So I'm hitting plus and nothing's happening. You see this little triangle's appeared, click that, and we can see our axis mappings. So we're going to make a move forward, and we are going to make a move right, and we need a look up. We need one more for look right. So underneath here where it says none, this is the binding for that axis mapping. So for moving forward, we are going to use W, A, S and D. So moving forward is W, and moving backwards is S. So if we move forward on a scale of 1, to move backwards it's a scale of -1. Moving right is D, and to move left is A. And the reason we've chosen right first will become apparent soon, so -1 as well. Look up, we will be using the mouse for, and that will be mouse Y, and looking right will be mouse X. Now, it's easy to get these two mixed up, but once we've set up our character, we'll see whether we've gotten those right or not. So, player, my player character. Because we don't have anything here at the moment, it's a data only blueprint. We can open the full blueprint editor like that. And now in the event graph, this is where you will add all your events for a blueprint. For the moment we don't need these, we can highlight those and delete them. Now if we right click, this is where you can start adding nodes. So that move forward that we have just created, you type in move forward, you can see there's a value or an event. We want the event. We can right click and we can put move right, because we're going to need that one. We are going to need look up and look right. So moving forward, when we move forward we want to add movement input, and the scale value is going to be our axis value. Now the world direction, we want to use our controller, so we want to get control. So you can see there we have get control rotation. Now that lets us get the rotation of our controller as it would seem from that name. So we want to break the rotator, and we want to use the Z, and that's it, because we don't want to change the roll and pitch, we just want to change the yaw, which is the Z value. So we go from here and we want to make a rotator. Now just move these down this along, from there we can get the forward vector and plug that into our world direction, compile, save, and we can now test this. So we can't look around with the mouse, we can't use A and D, but if I use S, I move backwards, and W, I move forwards. So that works. Now, for move right, we want to use the movement input. We want to use the same axis value, but now we need to know what vector we want to use for our world direction. Well, we've called it move right because there is a right vector. Get our right vector, plug it into our world direction, and now A and D will work, W and S will work. So lookup. How does lookup work? Well, we want to use a controller pitch, and we also want to use controller yaw, plug in the axis values. Let's test this. Now, it won't work now. Sometimes you do need to click to get access. Now you will notice that right is right, left is left, down is up, and up is down. So let's fix that. Edit, project settings, input. Now look up. If you want up is down and down is up, you can have it that inverted way, but let's make this -1. There is no save in project settings. Any changes are done and used on the fly. So now if we hit there, click, up is up and down is down. So that is how we are going to create our input for our character. The code looks a little messy. The next video I'm going to talk about tidying up code, tidying up your content browser, and naming conventions, which are quite important if you're in a project with other people. If there's anything that you don't understand, please feel free to comment. Please subscribe if you haven't already. As I've said in previous videos, these will really help me out. And yeah, see you in the next video.